Okay, we're going to start here in about 3 minutes. So we'll see, just get some more folks online a chance to get ready. If you are online, Brianna is your host. I know I'm pointing back here, but to you, she's right in front of you. She's going to be there. Ask her questions. And I'm sure she's told you all this already, but I just want to reiterate, if you have a question of any kind, just, type it in the chat, raise your hand, whatever. She'll speak it to me, and I'll do that because we want you guys to be engaged. We want you to feel like you're fully involved in what we're doing with this class. And then there's about 150 people in this room now that you can't see. No, I'm just kidding. There's 5, but that's okay. Well, 6 with Brianna. So, but it's all good. So my wife will be here later. Be 7. So being online is the new in thing. So it's all good. But so I have a question. I'm gonna ask, and if you're online, I would ask you to answer this question in the chat, and then Brianna's going to tell me here in a minute. Those of you in person, you can answer her if you want to. Here's the question. What made you decide to come and be a part of this class? What was it that made you think, I think I'll check that out? Any brave souls that want to?
You have a 3-year-old.
Okay.
He speaks a whole different language.
You have a 3-year-old speaking a whole different language. Okay. She's really cute. So you guys are big trouble. Yeah, well, we always hope that they do, don't they? I always hope mine do. So, okay. Anybody else? Any online? Anybody online? What they say?
Yep. Isaac Tram said we have 2 sons, ages 4 and 3, and would like to learn ways to teach our kids about the Word of God. And Leslie said, discipling your kids is the most important thing you can do. We have a 3-year-old.
So good, so good. When I'm going to ask this to people online, and you can answer Brianna. When Brianna was saying those things, could you hear her saying that? Yes?
We got one yes.
Okay. I just want you guys to be able to hear her when she's talking to me, for you guys to be able to hear her as well. So all the microphones and everything are on. For the most part, we're kind of getting the Zoom thing down, but there's always a little tweaks when you have in-person and you have Zoom. And, I don't want to forget the 150 that are here, but I don't want to forget the 150 that are there. So use pastoral numbers here. So with Brother John, there'd be 3,000 people. So I'm joking. So we missed Pastor. We missed Brother John. So. Hello, welcome. Thank you. Good to see you guys. All right. Well, here's what I'm going to do. I want to go ahead and jump in to our class. I hope you guys have handouts. I've got some fill in the blanks there. You can fill in the blanks. You can take your own notes. You can do this any way you want to. The great thing about class in church is there's no test. So you learn what you feel like you need as a parent, and that'll be really good. So tonight, what I want to do is I want to start off. And by the way, let me say this. My wife, Wendy, is coming. She's going to be in this class because she's way better at everything than me. And she'll be here in a little bit. We're going to give you an activity here in a little bit to do. And when you come back from that, she'll be here with me and have some stuff to say too. But my name is Doug. I've been the next gen minister here for about 7 years. I was a youth pastor here for 6 years before that. And my wife and I have 4 kids. And they are, I always have to stop and think about this, they are 16, but 17 on Friday, 18, 19, 20 in a month, and 21. And so they're all about 15, 16 months apart. And so when our 4th one was born, our oldest was 4.5. And so that always creates so much sympathy for my wife. She had her own preschool for a while. But she did fantastic at it. So I want you to hear her heart is really with preschool parents. She loved those years. They were not easy by any stretch of the imagination. Just to make it harder, about a year after our last one was born, we moved 2 states away from family. We just wanted to raise the bar even higher. So, but it's worked out really well, and she's really excited to be here and just share some encouragement with you that you'll get through this. Okay, it'll all be great. And don't worry, it gets much harder. So, just kidding. Actually not. But anyway, it's still fun. Having kids is one of the best things I've ever done. It's such a great thing to have kids. I love my 4 kids. We have a son, a daughter, with boy, girl. And 3 of them are in college, and 1 of them's in high school. And so many great things in my life have been because of my kids. So many stressful things in my life have been because of my kids. So they're kind of the height of everything exciting and the height of everything stressful. But I love that. I remember when we had our first, his name is Lucas. And when Lucas was born, we had him in a little bitty hospital. We lived in a town that was about 300,000 people, but we went about 20 minutes to have him in a hospital in a town that was about 10,000 people. And we did that because that's where our doctor was. It was just a great little hospital, very personal. It was just a great experience. And so we had him, and I remember pulling the car up in front of the hospital. You do a lot of things at that hospital you could never do at hospitals in Houston. So I pulled up the car in front of the door of the hospital, left it running, tried that in Houston, and went in and got I got Lucas, and we brought him out here. And I remember we had a little Honda Civic, and we put him in this car seat, thing in the back, facing rear, because he's like 3 days old, 2 days old, whatever. And I remember in that moment just being struck with such terror and just thinking, I don't know what to do. I'm gonna break him. I'm gonna hurt him. I'm gonna mess this up. I'm gonna do, and just driving home is probably the best I've ever driven in my life. Very carefully, always, the speed limit, everything. I got over that, by the way. And so there's so much joy and there's so much fun, but your hopes and your dreams really begin to become enveloped in your children, because you want to see them do well. I've never met a parent who honestly said to me, I don't want to be a good parent. Everybody wants to be a good parent. We all want to be a good parent. We want to be that for the benefit of our kids. Now, here's the thing. You may look at this and go, I thought this was a discipleship class. Why are we talking about parenting? Well, we are going to talk about parenting because in Next Gen here at Houston's First, we have a saying that we try to say to parents a lot, and that's this. Good parenting is in the blank, by the way, just in case you're wondering. Don't worry, it's not a blank. Good parenting prepares the way for good discipleship. Good parenting prepares the way for good discipleship. If our parenting isn't good, it becomes a lid for our discipleship. And we want to remove that. We want to be parents that are good parents, and we all want to be parents that are good parents. And so tonight I want to set the stage a little bit in how we think about parenting. So I want to challenge maybe some of the thoughts that you have about what it means to be a parent, what's the purpose, what is going on here. And so we're going to get to our first blank of the night, and that's this. We want to parent with the end in mind, okay? We want to parent with the end in mind. We want to be results oriented. Think for a second, what do you want your child to look like and act like and value when they're 25 years old? What do you want that to be? Well, how will they get there? They'll get there by you preparing them all through childhood for that moment. You see, we're preparing children who are not going to stay children. One of the strangest, hardest, weirdest things of parenting is that our kids will one day not be kids. They're going to be adults. And not that parenting doesn't continue. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit, but there's this idea that I need to have the end in mind. What am I really after? Because I'll be honest with you, I think what happens a lot of times, it happened in our lives for sure, is that we just let life happen. We just let life happen. Our kids are hurt, take them to the doctor. If they need new shoes, we buy them new shoes. If they, if they're bored, we find them something to do. If they, we just do life. And we look at it, and as long as everybody's healthy or okay, things are okay. And the problem with that is that lack of intentionality leads us to a place we don't want to go. We're going somewhere we don't want to go. We just don't know we're doing it because we're just letting life happen. Day in and day out, we're not being intentional about it. So we want to begin with the end in mind. I want you to imagine for a second if you were a painter and you were going to paint this picture and you decided that you weren't going to look at anything to paint it. You're not going to think of anything. Just start painting it. What am I painting? Well, nothing. Whatever you want to. So you start throwing paint on there. Now, it looks like a Jackson Pollock. But if you're painting a real thing, you need to look at it. You need to understand it. If you're going to paint a bowl of fruit, what do? You look at that bowl of fruit and you study it. And you do some stuff here and you keep going back. And you keep going back and you keep referring to the place that you're trying to get to. That's what we want to do as moms and dads. We want to get in our minds this adult that we want our kids to become, and we want to keep coming back to that over and over again and really working on how they can be that person over time. So I'm raising a future adult. Second blank is this. We are going to, let me say this first. This is one of the books that I think a lot of you have, and those of you that are online are going to, probably everybody online is going to get this.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, so if you're online, you're going to get this book for free. It's called 12 Huge Mistakes Parents Can Avoid. It's a great book. Here's what I love about this book. It's not made to read the whole thing. How great is that? You can only read parts of it. So what you do with this book is you open it up and it has a little test at the beginning, and everybody makes some of these mistakes. And I'll be honest with you, after 4 kids and as long as we've had kids, I truly believe I've made every one of these. Some of them I've made many times. There's some of these that just are kind of my mistakes. They're the ones I struggle with. My wife's got a few that are kind of her mistakes, the ones she struggles with. There's just stuff that we gravitate to. Excuse me. Well, number 12 is this, and this is your blank. You ready? Mistake number 12 is preparing the path for the child instead of the child for the path. Okay, let me say that again. Preparing the path for the child instead of the child for the path. The problem is we get lulled into this place where when our kids are really little, they're so needy, right? You bring home a baby from the hospital, you do everything for it. I mean, you literally are taking care of everything. You're feeding it, you're clothing it, you're holding it, you're putting it doesn't even walk. You know what I mean? You carry your kids everywhere. You do everything for them, as you should, right? But you get lulled into this thing that says, I've got to do everything for my kids. I don't want them to ever have trouble. I don't want them to ever. And so what happens is you can fall into the mistake of they're called snowplow parents. You ever heard that term? Is they just plow the road ahead of their kids to make the path as easy as they can. Rather than doing the preparation with the child, they're doing the preparation with the path. And so they're just out in front of their kids, just clearing all the obstacles, clearing all the things that are going on. They're just trying to get everything that might hurt them emotionally, hurt them physically, hurt them in any way. They're trying to get those out of the way. Now, that's not inherently wrong. You don't say, hey, my child's walking out, running out in the middle of the street. That'd be a good lesson for them. You don't, please don't do that, okay? That's not what you do. But there are, you're right, make a note of that. But there are things that we don't need to do. Because we want to have this idea in mind that we're preparing our son or our daughter for the fact, again, that one day they're going to be an adult. I love this quote from Tim Elmore, who wrote this book. He says, if you treat your kids as fragile, you will raise fragile adults. If you treat your kids as fragile, you will raise fragile adults. And we don't want fragile adults. We want strong, healthy, grounded adults for our kids to be, right? That's what we want them to be. And so this is something, this is a mindset, okay? We are going to get some very practical things. We're going to do our best to try to give you some things that you might or might not want to use. practical ways that you can disciple your preschooler. But I want you to know, if we don't get the mindset right, if we don't have the lens to look through, which is this lens of, I am preparing my child for the path ahead. I want them to be strong. I want them to know what it's like to fail. Why? Because someday they're going to, no matter how hard I try. And when they do, I want them to know what to do with it. I want them to know what to do with it. I don't want their failure to just utterly destroy them because I've never prepared them for that. And so we want to kind of have that lens on. Now, here's one reason why this is so very important. And I spent a lot of years as a student minister, and I saw this a lot. It's a thing that we call prolonged adolescence, okay? Prolonged adolescence means that someone who goes through adolescence, which would typically be around the 11, 12, 13-year age group, up to about 18 when you graduate from high school, that there are sociologists telling us that there are folks who are still in the adolescent mode in their early 30s. I hope you know that shouldn't be that way, okay? What that means is they have gotten stuck in adolescence. They have come through and they've not made that step into adulthood. And what Tim Elmore, who wrote this book, writes about in another book is this idea of a toll booth. So imagine that you're a child and you're coming around this corner and you're an adolescent and you come around this corner and you see this adult toll booth. And if you've not been prepared, you look at that and go, oh, I can't afford that. Which might say, I'm not ready to be an adult. Adulting is hard. We've got an actual word for it now. Adulting is hard. My college kids like to say this to me when I make them do things. Adulting is hard. I'm like, you just wait, okay? Adulting is hard. But what happens is, kind of metaphorically, they come around this turn, and we've got kids that are camping out there because they're saying, I have not been prepared. I don't have what it takes. I can't afford to go through this toll booth into adulthood, so I'm stopping here. So now they're living out as adolescents in their early 20s, their mid-20s, their late 20s, their early 30s. They're continuing to make adolescent decisions. They're continuing. Now, what happens when an adult by age lives with adolescent decisions? Nothing good, right? A lot of really bad decisions. Adolescents tend to be very selfish, very self-absorbed, very in the moment, okay? And so we don't want our kids to get there. One of the greatest things that I've enjoyed the last few years is launching 3 of our kids. And so at graduation, I want you to kind of think in your mind, I've got to their high school graduation, and then I'm launching them. I'm building a rocket. And on the day they graduate, that thing's going up. Now, I hope it doesn't go like that. I want it to really take off. It's going to take off to the extent that I built it. I've used this example before. If you worked at NASA and you were building a rocket, before that rocket is launched, there's a lot of things you can do. You could go out there on any given day, take a wrench. Obviously, I don't know a whole lot about rockets, but you could go out there on any given day with a wrench and do what you need to do to that rocket, right? But once that rocket launches, you're done. There's no, well, it's taken off and it's 3 days out into outer space. Well, take your wrench and go try to fix it. Not going to happen. Once our kids launch, our ability to invest in them goes down drastically. So again, we want this mindset that says, I am preparing an adult, and I really want to raise my kids to be that way. Okay? So to do that, we're going to look really quickly at these 4 stages of parenting that you'll see at the bottom of your sheet. This is something that I think will really help you as you walk through this. Some of you may have older kids. You may have a preschooler who's 3 or 4 and a 1st or 2nd grader. And so I want you to know that there are stages of parenting. For a long time, I thought you're a parent, and then your kids grow up. But there's more than that. As our kids change, and just think for a second, like, what'd you say Hannah's 3? Okay, think of how much she's changed in the last year. I mean, amazing. Think how different she'll be 5 years from now. unbelievable changes that happen with kids as they physically change, emotionally change, cognitively change. There's all these things that are going on. Well, we as parents have to change with them. We can't just stay the same. So there's these 4 stages of parenting, and I'm going to ask some of you here in person, and then I'm going to ask some of you online to help me figure out some of these ages. So the first stage goes in that blank right next to the stage at the top is the caregiver stage. Okay, the caregiver stage. Now, right below that, we're going to put the ages of the caregiver stage. This is going to be 0 to. I want somebody in here to tell me, what do you think the age that the caregiver stage might stop and why? Somebody that's in person. Caregiver stage stops where, and the why tells you where it stops. That's my hint.
Well, I don't know. I would say 2 years old because they kind of have accountability for what they're doing.
Okay, that's a great answer. Yeah.
Understand.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. A little bit more than that. That's a great reasoning. Something bigger that happens to them. Life-changing, life-altering. Never been that way before, but all of a sudden, potty training. You know, if my wife was here, that's exactly what she was saying. That was life-altering to her, but I don't know if it was to my kids. Okay, that's important. Life-altering, yes, because if you're not potty trained, life's going to be very different. Okay. School. All your life you've been, now you may go to a preschool, a day school, something like that, but now you've entered the school system, public, private, or even if it's at home, there's a difference in expectation. So this stage goes from 0 to 5. Okay? Now, 5 or 6, somewhere in there, your kids are going to start school. And now they're going to have people that say to them, all right, hold the bubble in your mouth. Gotta learn to be quiet. Everybody line up. Okay, everybody take your turn. There's all these social things that begin to happen with kids at that age group. And because of this, they go into a new stage. So the next stage is called this. It's called, you ready for this? It's kind of a weird one. It's called the COP stage. COP, C-O-P. Okay, like policeman cop, okay? It's the COP stage. So the other one ended at 5. This one's going to begin at age 6. I want somebody online. Brianna's going to let me know when she has somebody online tell me what age do you think the COP stage goes to and why? What happens that brings the COP stage to an end? Something very impacting. I'm seeing a lot of little things come up here. I think everybody's got the answer. Tell me what they're saying.
Okay, we've got hopefully not until 18, 6 to 11, and 12.
Okay, so 6 to 11 and 12 are right in there. What is it about that 11 or 12 age group? What happens right there that changes everything? Oh, there come the demons again. They're all laughing.
Hormones.
Hormones, adolescence, puberty. Okay? When puberty hits, everything changes. So 6 to 11 is a good age group right there, okay? And I'm going to go back and say a little bit about these, but not a lot. This is a whole other class that we do on 4 stages of parenting. So 6 to 11, puberty begins, and somewhere in there, starts earlier for girls. Girls are always ahead of guys. That's just the way it works. Guys spend their whole life trying to catch up. We never do. We just come to live with it, right? So 6 to 11 is the COP stage. Then we enter the next stage, which is called the coach stage. The coach stage. Okay? Coach stage starts at age 12 and goes to age, anybody, online, in person? 16?
17 and 18.
17 or 18? What's the event? What's the dividing event there? Graduation. Yeah, that's it, graduation. When graduation comes, we need to think of that as launch day. That really needs to be launch day. Because once that happens, your child is going to think of themselves differently. They are probably going to live at home for at least maybe 2 or 3 months. Now, I was different. I had the weirdest thing in the world, and it was just the college I chose to go to. The college I chose to go to, you had to start in the summer. That means I graduated on a Wednesday night. I started college class the next Monday. I don't suggest it for anybody. It was awful. But I had, 3 days at home between graduation and college. Most people are going to have 2 or 3 months. If your child stays home and goes to college, it doesn't matter because they change here. I'm graduated. I'm an adult. I think differently, okay? And so that brings us to the last stage, which is 18 plus, and we call that the consultant stage, okay? We call that the consultant stage. So here's the point of all this is at each one of these, you need to approach parenting a little bit differently. You don't approach a 3-year-old as a cop. You don't have to. They're not asking for a lot of permission, and really, whatever they are, it's pretty easy. Daddy, can I play with this knife? No, you cannot. Now, when they're 10, you can figure that out, okay? But this is the caregiver stage. You need to have in your mind, when they go to school, we're in a different stage. And I need to parent them differently. I need to be prepared because all along what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to prepare them to be a really strong adult. Okay? So we parent with the end in mind. We don't make the mistake of preparing the path for our child. We prepare the child for the path, and we understand these stages of parenting. All right, I want to take a break here. And here's what I want us to do. If you're online, I believe Brianna's going to put these questions up and put everybody in groups. Here's what I want you to do. Tell me your name. Kevin. Kevin, why don't you come over here where Kimberly is so that you have somebody to talk to, because we don't want to look at you walk over funny because you're talking to yourself. Okay? So you guys can do that. Thank you very much, Kevin. So on the back of your sheet at the top, there's some discussion questions. And I'd like for you just to, hey, my wife is here. I'd like for you just to walk through these 3 questions. You got about 10 minutes at the most, 8 to 10 minutes. Just talk through these. We don't, have to get super deep or anything. Just kind of begin to think through these. And then we're going to come back and we're going to do something totally different. Okay? So online, same thing, 8 to 10 minutes. Discuss these questions, and then we will come back. Thank you. Okay, well, we're going to come back and do something different here. We only have an hour together each week, and so we want to kind of split it up into a lot of different things. And so this is my wife, Wendy, and she loves being in front of people. I had to bribe her to do this, and so I'm not sure what that means. But I've asked her just to come and just kind of do a little bit kind of a mom talk each week. Just share some things with you, and so I'm gonna.
I don't know if he told you, I'm coming in late each week because I teach a fitness class here. I'm completely comfortable and okay with telling people what to do in that format, exercising and yelling and showing them how to do things. But in this, I don't have the time. Good. So I know that Doug told you about Lucas and bringing him home from the hospital. Lucas is our oldest. He's 21 now. So it was a few years ago.
Can you just talk a little bit louder, they said, please?
I can talk louder.
Thank you.
A few years ago, when he was 18, just out of high school, we took him and his son and for 12 hours away. We're leaving him there, saying goodbye, driving home, and then he's not with us anymore. So we no longer will know what he's doing, who he's with, where he's going, right? He's responsible for himself now, physically and spiritually in all these ways. So that's a lot of mixed emotions. Sorry, making us sad. So there's some sad because we're gonna miss him. Our home isn't gonna be the same without him there anymore. We're also excited for him. This is a new milestone, a new venture, and we're happy we're gonna have this. We're thinking he's gonna need to prepare himself. Will he do okay on his own? Will he remember things? But he's a great kid, but right? So this was a big
think about that moment because it seems so far away and they're just little and you can't imagine leaving them yet, right? But it gets here so fast before you know it. And so talking about Lucas and 18 years old, it seems far away for you, but what that means for you and why I'm sharing that is for you right now, that means that there's lots of little letting go moments that lead up to that big letting go moment. And so practically, there's a question. Just already start asking yourself, starting in these toddler years, you're going to ask this question, hopefully, regularly and continually. And as they grow, you keep asking it. And here's the question. What am I doing for my child that they can do for themselves? Right? What am I doing for my child that they can do for themselves? It's tempting to keep doing things for your child because it's faster, it's easier, you're in control. And I remember well that with toddlers, it takes supernatural patience. I know this because it's a process of teaching and they want to help and it's hard. I know, I remember that, right? But you want to continually give them these little steps towards independence. And then it starts with little things, but then it gets to be bigger things and more things. And that's why you keep asking that question, what am I doing for my child they can do for themselves? Because as they get older, there's more things and there's bigger things. It's easy probably for you right now to think of some examples, like with a toddler, dressing themselves, putting their own shoes on, cleaning up, putting toys away, right? There's little things. But they get closer to school age and into school, and you ask yourself again, what am I still doing for my child that they can do for themselves? They're 5 now. They can do more things than when they were 3. So just evaluating and keep giving them some independence and responsibility. Just examples when they get closer to school, like packing their own backpack, making and packing their own lunch. Homework is their responsibility, not yours. You'll have different rules in your family, but one thing that I had, even from like kindergarten, our rule was, your teacher gives you a paper and says, Mom and Dad need to sign this. When you get home from school, it is your job to get that paper out and bring it to me and ask me to sign it. I'm not going on a treasure hunt through 4 backpacks, trying to find everything I need to do. So it's your job to bring it to me. Right? That's just a small thing, but just an example. As they get a little bit older, setting their own alarm clock, getting themselves up, because you don't want a 10th, 11th, 12th grader that you're still waking up to go to school. And there are those out there, but it doesn't have to be. So you start these things when they're younger. Another, again, just a rule at our house, you'll have your own things, but as my kids got to like middle school and high school, I was a stay-at-home mom. So I kind of was free to, if they forgot something, technically I was usually available to bring it to the school, but no. The rule was you get 1 rescue a semester. That's some grace. You get 1 rescue, right? You forget your lunch or homework, I'll bring it to you 1 time a semester. After that, if you forget something, that's on you. And you know what? They get to problem solve. They get to figure it out. They get to talk to their teacher or whatever they need to do, or just go without. Whatever it is. But you know what? It didn't take very many times, and our kids really remembered stuff. Well, because you forget it 1 time, it usually only takes that 1 time, and then, you know, they're responsible for themselves, for their stuff. So all that are just little examples to say, you keep asking, what am I doing for my child that they can do for themselves? And you just evaluate often as they grow and make those bigger things and more responsibility things. And then you get to that big letting go moment, and truly, they're ready for it. And you can probably feel like they're ready for it because you've been doing that all along.
That's good. You have to see the value of letting them learn is greater than the value of them being happy in that moment. Okay? We love our kids. I have no doubt. People who show up on Wednesday night online or in person for a class about parenting are most likely the best parents because you care, you're here, you're wanting to learn. And so I typically begin the class by just saying, I know you're the best parents because you're taking the time to be here. So I know you care about your kids, we care about our kids, but we've got to have that mindset that says what they're learning, remember we're preparing them. What we're learning in the moment is greater value than just them having the happiness in the moment. We want you to have that lens because next week we're going to start talking about some of the two really foundational things when it comes to discipling your kids. If you're going to train your kids in faith at home, these are two things that I really believe are ideal for the top years, the preschool years. But it's got to be through this lens of them learning and them preparing. Okay. So one thing we're going to do each week is we're going to show you a resource each week. This week we gave it to you. It's this book. Okay. In the future weeks, we'll just make it known to you. It might be a book. It might be a website, something like that. If you choose to use it, fine. If you don't choose to use it, that's fine too. We're just trying to throw some ideas out there. I want to encourage you on this book. The way this book works the best. Now, if you've got a 7-month-old, save this book. Okay? Whatever mistakes you're making, don't worry about those yet. All right? You're good. But if your child is 2 or 3 or older, I would say it's time to go ahead and start pulling this book out and seeing how you're doing. There is a what they call the overfunctioning parent quiz. Okay, and it's a great easy quiz. What that will do is that will tell you which of these 12 mistakes you probably need to read the chapter on. Okay, so if there's 2 of them, you don't have to read the whole book. Okay, just read those 2 chapters. Okay, and so I want to encourage you to take this, read it, and use it. This really is a book you can keep throughout your child's life and pull it out. And I would guess that the mistakes, some mistakes will change. And let's just say right here, let's just kind of get it out here. We're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to make a million mistakes. It's just part of being a parent. The greatest thing I can tell you to encourage you is that God never expected you or me to be the perfect parent. He knew we wouldn't be, and so it's okay. But use this, go through it. So that's that. We also have homework for you. Now, we want homework to be fun. Here's the great thing about homework. You don't have to turn it in, okay? But we want it to be fun. And so if you're online, Brianna's going to get that to you. If you're in person, Brianna's going to bring that to your table. And we just want this to be fun. Now, let me tell you what I want you to do with this homework. If you're a single parent, and I don't know if we have any single parents at all, we have some fantastic single parents at our church. Such a hard job. We respect so much what you guys are doing. I'm so proud of you for working so hard to do that. If you're a single parent, I want to ask you to take this homework, get with a friend that has children, and walk through this with them. Okay, go to coffee. If you're a married couple, go on a date. All right, and say, we got to go on a date. I got homework. It's required by the church. Okay, it's a good way to get a date. All right, so you go on this date with your spouse, and then just walk through these questions. They're meant to be interesting. They're meant to be kind of fun, but I just want to encourage you to take some time on a date, walk through these, begin to just think through your parenting. Because one of the keys to good parenting is that, and Wendy talked about this, is that frequent evaluation. How are our kids doing? Okay, so if you're a married couple or if you're a single parent, you need to find a really good friend that wants to do this as well. And I found that a lot of single parents, there's a lot of people to choose from. You've got some really good single parent friends, and they're dying to have something like this. So get together with them, and you get together and go and do this, okay? So any questions about that? It's super easy, shouldn't be hard, but it'll be something, a date's not tough homework, hopefully. So, okay, any questions from anybody online? You all have been great. I hope that this is working for you all. I hope that you can see everything okay. And so thank you so much for hanging in there. Let me say this, if you're online and next week you'd like to come and be in person, totally fine. This is not the public school. You don't have to wait till the grading period is over, okay? So if you want to come and be here in person next week, we would love to have you. If you're here in person and next week is just hard and you want to get online, just go to the Milestones page, find this class and register, and you can get the Zoom information to do that. So we want to make it as easy for you as we can, okay? Guys, thank you so much. Let me pray for us, and we'll let you get out of here, all right? God, we just thank you, Father, for knowing where we are weak. God, you know that we can never be perfect parents. You know, Lord, that there's just too much. It's just too hard to be a great parent all the time. So, Lord, we just pray for wisdom. Lord, I pray for each of us as we're parenting our kids that you would give us wisdom. God, give us intentionality. Help us, Lord, to really rely on others. Lord, I pray that relationships would be built in this class. Friendships would be made, Lord, so that we can talk to other parents, that we can rely on other parents, that we can really know that we're all in this together and we can lean on each other. But Lord, more than anything, I pray that we would have a mindset that says that we want to prepare our kids to be amazing adults. Lord, we know that once they get there, the decisions are on them. We can't make them do anything. But God, we want to prepare them well. So help us to do that, Lord, over the coming weeks as we talk about different areas of faith training and discipleship in the home. God, we just pray that you would lead us through that and give us the intentionality to do it. We love you, Lord. We thank you for every family that's represented and pray your blessings over them. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Great. Thank y'all. Appreciate it. We'll see you next week.